Macintosh Quadra 800. This computer from the early 90s is what I used to build my first website. Apparently, it was quite expensive. It was originally priced at $4,679. That's over $8,000 in today's money. I wasn't rich. The university paid for it. That's the topic of this video. You don't need to be rich to be a web developer. So, what kind of computer hardware do you need to be a web developer? To get a frame of reference, let's take a look at the specs of the Quadra 800 and compare that to the cheapest new Mac that you can buy today. The Quadra 800 has 8 megabytes of RAM standard. The CPU runs at a blistering 33 megahertz, not 300, 33. That speed is roughly somewhere between a Super Nintendo and a Nintendo 64. Obviously, there are huge differences between a game console and a Mac, but that's just to show you how fast computer hardware changed in the 90s. The storage space was 1 gigabyte. That was a lot of space back then, but today, not a single video created for Phottix TV would fit on that hard drive. Let's compare that to the M1 Mac Mini, which is the cheapest Mac available today. At the time this video was recorded, the Mac Mini was on sale for $600 at Costco. Wow, Apple's new hardware is really shaking things up. I spent over $1,000 for the 2018 Mac Mini. Ouch. But it's not just the expense that hurts. The new M1 Mac Mini is way more powerful. Geekbench puts the 2020 Mac Mini at the top of the single-core list. My 2018 Mac Mini is much lower in that list. The 2020 Mac Mini is almost double the performance for almost half the price. So let's compare those numbers. 8 megabytes versus 8 gigabytes of RAM. That's 1,000 times more memory. The CPU difference is similar. The new M1 runs at 3.2 gigahertz. This too is roughly 1,000 times faster. Yet the M1 is so different from the Motorola 68040 that it might as well be alien hardware. The storage space shows where Apple is stingy. The new Mac Mini is only 256 times better than the old Quadra 800. Solid-state drives are amazing, but storage space can be a problem with today's Macs. It certainly is an issue for making videos. I use close to 100 gigabytes of storage space while making these 4K videos. Now here's my point. I'm not 1,000 times more productive today than I was in the 1990s. I use that Quadra 800 to play some games, do some office stuff, and go online. That's basically what I do today, but it was on that computer that I realized I could make my own websites. A simple text editor was all that was needed to get started. This video is not to promote Macs either. About a decade ago, I was offered a job, but they didn't have a computer ready for me. I was told that if I wanted to start working right away, I needed to bring my own computer. This was for a web development job. Did I go out and buy the fanciest Mac I could find? No, I bought one of the cheapest Windows laptops available at Best Buy. It was a Gateway for $320. It got the job done. It was even useful last year when working from home. By throwing Linux on the laptop, it was given new life. With Ubuntu's long-term support, version 20.04 is not scheduled for end of life until April 2030. That bargain laptop was such a good investment. So, if you want to get into web development, at least for the basic stuff, computers that many people might throw away could still be good. Seriously, just look at the requirements for Visual Studio Code. It took me a little effort to find it, but it's not very demanding. A 1.6 gigahertz or faster processor, 1 gigabyte of RAM, and roughly half a gig of space for the app itself. After looking at these requirements, I started wondering, can Visual Studio Code run on a Raspberry Pi? According to this webpage, it can. Scroll a little bit and it lists the Raspberry Pi 400. That's a keyboard with a Raspberry Pi inside. It's available as a $100 computer kit. Insane! It has a micro SD card slot, 2 mini HDMI ports, a USB-C port, 2 USB 3.0 ports, 1 USB 2.0 port, and a gigabit Ethernet port. That's a lot of ports. In the first web video for Phottix TV, the Hello World tutorial was completed with Visual Studio Code. That's a free app. If you don't like Visual Studio Code, there are many free or inexpensive alternatives. Do you see where I'm going with this? With a cheap computer and free software, you can start learning how to build websites. Now, I'm not suggesting that we all start working on old computers. Apple has a long list of obsolete computers. Those machines, including the Quadra 800, no longer support the latest version of macOS. Going online with an old operating system could be a big security risk. But it's more than that. If you're building websites for others to use, then you'll want to support the web browsers that they're using. Right now, the most popular web browser is Google Chrome, along with other Chromium-based browsers like Edge, Brave, and Opera. The requirements are low, perhaps too low. I liked Windows 7 and macOS El Capitan back when they were new, but I don't recommend running those operating systems today. There is also a problem of software being too new. Apparently, the update requirements for the newly announced Windows 11 is causing a lot of trouble. Specifically, it's the Trusted Platform module. Requiring TPM 2.0 means that my 10-year-old Gateway laptop will be staying on Linux. Security updates are critical for computers that go online. That sums up this video. If you've got an older machine, one that can no longer run the latest versions of Windows or Mac OS, maybe Linux will work for you. It certainly extended the life of my older computers. The point is that you can make websites with an inexpensive computer.